Shalom, everyone. This is Rabbi Allen, and we are continuing our series, our weekly series of Yeshua in the Torah. And this week's Parsha is Yitro. In English, it would be Jethro, Exodus 18:1 through 20:23. And the corresponding Haftarah portion is Isaiah 6:1 through 7:6. So, let's be honest about it. Jethro, he was not Jewish. And it's interesting that we have a Parsha named after him. And, the only Jethro I ever heard of, really, I don't know anybody whose name is Jethro, was from the Beverly Hillbillies, Jethro Bodine. And certainly the character was not Jewish. However, little trivia here before we start. Max Baer was the actor that played Jethro, and Max was Jewish. Who knew? So anyway, okay, let's get on with our Parsha today. So in our Torah portion this morning, or this afternoon or evening, whenever you're watching this, Yitro is giving advice to his son-in-law, Moses, because Moses marries one of Yitro's daughters, and he's giving him advice about how to judge and take care of the children of Israel. In this Parsha, we also have Israel going to Mount Sinai, and resting on the bottom of Mount Sinai and camping there, because Moses is going to go up Mount Sinai and he's going to receive the Torah from God. And so what he receives initially is the Ten Commandments from God, directly from God. Now let me just say that the Ten Commandments are in fact the very essence of the entire Torah. And so although Moses later inscribed the entire Torah, what God gives him on Mount Sinai at that time, initially, is the very essence of the Torah, and they are the Ten Commandments. Now, the Ten Commandments, we can really break them down, where the first four commandments are commandments where God has a relationship with us, and man has a relationship with God. The second of the Ten Commandments, the six commandments of the Ten Commandments, are how we as people should have a relationship with other people. Relationships with our parents, relationships between strangers, relationships between neighbors. And so again, the Ten Commandments are basically broken up. The first four is man to God and God to man. And the last six are relationships of man to man. Now, why do I say this? Because in the Brit Hadashah, in the New Testament, there was a expert on the law. One of the Pharisees that knew Torah, and so he asked Yeshua. He said, Yeshua, what is the greatest of the commandments? And Yeshua answered him that the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength. And then he goes on to say, and the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. So what was he doing? He was telling this expert in Torah that the greatest, actually, two commandments are in fact the very essence of the entire Torah. Love God and love man, which is the same as the Ten Commandments, where God said to love God and to love man. And so basically that was Yeshua's short answer to him, but letting him know it is most important to have this wonderful relationship with God, but also the second commandment, greatest commandment being that it is very important for us to have a relationship with other people, with other men. So the thing is this: none of us, although we try to in our lives, many people do, many people disregard the Torah. They say that Torah isn't relevant for today. The fact is that the Jewish people cannot separate themselves from the Torah. And the Torah and Messiah can't be separated, which means the Jewish people can't be separated from the Messiah. Even Jewish people, and some of you that are listening today that don't believe that Yeshua is the Messiah, let me tell you, your lives are entwined with Messiah Yeshua. You just don't understand it and you don't know it. You can't separate your life from the Torah and from God and from Messiah. We just can't, no matter how hard we try. And so, how could especially believers today, there are many believers that say the Torah isn't relevant for today. Well, the Torah is very relevant for today. These are God's instructions. And if we don't have a set of instructions by default, whose instructions do we follow? And so if we are to read in Jeremiah, in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament, in Jeremiah 31:33, God said, I will put my Torah in their minds, the Jewish people's minds, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Now that's from the Tanakh. But then we see that in the Brit Hadashah, in the New Testament, the book of John chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, he says, and we've read about this morning, or in the past, because it's very, very important scriptures for us to understand. This is what John said. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was with God. And he was in the beginning with God and God. Can you imagine that? That he says not only the Word is with God, but the Word is God. And so many of the sages in Judaism have come to the conclusion centuries and centuries ago that the Word, the Memra, in fact is the Messiah. And so he was in the beginning with God. John 1:14 goes on to say, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. So we see that the Word of God, the living Torah, the living Word, is in fact the Messiah. And he is God, and he was with God. And then he became flesh, and he dwelt among us. So, going back to the people that say, well, the Torah isn't relevant today, if Jeremiah 31 is in our hearts, in our lives as believers, then what is it that flows out of us? It's the Torah. You know, Yeshua even says that living waters will flow out of you. We know the living word is Yeshua. We know that the living word is Yeshua Messiah. We know the living word is in fact the living Torah, the Torah that became flesh. And so for those of you today that may doubt that the Torah is for today, then what's going to flow out of your life? If not the Torah, what's going to flow out of your life? See, the Torah is relevant today, just as relevant as the Messiah is relevant today, and God and his acts and his miracles are relevant today. So that's it for our portion this week with Yeshua in the Torah. And quickly, I'm going to mention, again, I've been doing this for a few weeks now, that my book that came out a few weeks ago, The Hidden Secrets of the Passover Haggadah, came out. And it is a wonderful book for Jewish people to read, believers and non-believers. It's a wonderful book for Christians to believe because it helps us to understand what Passover is really about. It helps us to understand some of the hidden secrets that are in the Haggadah that we usually don't even know about. And so there are some wonderful nuggets, there's some wonderful gems that can literally change your life. And I'm talking to all of you, Jews, Gentiles, believers, non-believers. It's a wonderful book. So if you would like to order it, there's a link down below my description for Amazon, and you can go to Amazon and you can actually look there at some of the chapters. You can look inside the book and look some of the chapters there and read the introduction. Okay. So if you like our video today, you can share it with friends. Above us, we have there's an address from YouTube. You can cut and paste. You can share with people. If you watch me on Facebook, you can certainly share this on your Facebook profile page with friends and family, and they'll be able to have an opportunity to listen to this video today. Like it. There's a thumbs up below. Click it and like it. Also below, there's a subscribe button. You can subscribe the button and ring the little bell, and you will. It will take you to my channel. Also below, there's the name says Rabbi on the Fly. That's the channel. So either way you go to our channel, you're going to get access to all the videos that I've made over the last year, almost a year and a half. Okay. So that is it for today. And so until next week, this is Rabbi Allen, and I am bidding you shalom, shalom.